Hello, my name is Niels Peters. I'm a notes reader and an art teacher. To give you a hint of my artistic vision, I will be talking about my work process from a book I've made in 2015. It's Fox and Goldfish. It's almost a wordless picture book. It really has almost like no words, no sentence at all, still none, still not. Okay, there come a little bit of words in it, but there are actually more on the back than in between. I will be discussing a lot of topics, but I try to cut it down, narrow it down to yes, only the essential. We're gonna start with a very dramatic one, and it's this one. So this book actually started out of an artistic crisis. The books I've made before always left me wondering, is this the kind of book that reflects my vision? I think this is a curse played upon everyone who makes a book. By the way, I'm still living under this curse. The book didn't free me. And of course, it can also be a healthy way to stay hungry and creative. Before Fox and Goldfish, I was really fond on control. Too much, actually. Therefore came a crisis. My work schedule was all about rational approach. Lots of thinking, not that much feeling. My idea was the more planning, the more a greater outcome. The way I worked was the same as how you would approach a math problem, from A to Z. I show you some of my work from that period. These are sketches from the book Leeuw or Line from 2012. Here you see some sketches from my storyboard. Looking back, I feel kind of sad because if your sketch is already worked out so much, you leave little surprise for yourself for working out the book. This way of working fueled more and more my idea of control, until I realized that it no longer brought me the joy of storytelling or drawing, and so came an artistic crisis. It left me with a lot of questions. How do I find back the joy of drawing and storytelling, the joy that I had when I was a child? And what do I want to tell? What is the visual language, my own voice, and how can I enjoy it? I had a feeling I wanted a silence, rest. No more noise, planning, or rationality. The old way of working did not work anymore for me. It was really necessary to reinvent myself. So instead of planning, scheming, working from a team, an idea, I just went back to the fundament. Grabbing a piece of paper, don't care the size or color, and just drawing. Drawing for me, drawing for fun. I did not consciously ask myself what to draw, just intuitive drawing. Less thinking, more feeling. Like I did as a child, careless. This was my first drawing I made. The little seed where Fox and Goldfish evolved from. Important side note, I did not know I was making a book by then. This is just intuitive drawing. The landscape with a clear horizontal resting line is almost a metaphor for the silence I wished for. The sketches from 2012 I showed earlier were all drawn in lines. But now I work directly with paint. There is a less control with painting. The paint has a life, a movement on its own. In the sketches, I manipulate smudges, blots, textures, and the paint has a life on its own. And accepting those flaws, or happy accidents, like Bob Ross says, is actually very fun. Feeling became more important than planning. Drawing lines, to me, is about controlling the world, tracing your thoughts, grabbing and detaining the world as you perceive it in lines. Painting could be used in the same way, but the paint is not as sharp as the line. It grows from a blot, from within. I use it in a far more organic way. As an art teacher, I collect all kinds of paper to let my students experiment with. The paper I was sketching on was something I found in a dumpster. As you can see, it was a little creme colored, and it has this sort of plastic coating on it, which the paint reacted funny with. The rocks have this stone texture on it by accident. I find it very beautiful and learned that not all good things have to come from control. Subconsciously, these drawings had gained a more restful, maybe even mindful atmosphere than in my previous work. Almost in all drawings, you can see a clear horizon, often a flat line. I once read that people love to go to the sea or have a hotel on the top floor so you can see a clear horizon, which also means a clear overview, a calming line. Why is that line so calming? Instinctively, we should enjoy such a view because it brings more power to our survival, a restful feeling that we have control over our environment. And I like to believe that. So, more drawings came. I really loved clinging to these characters, the fox and the goldfish. By then, they were appearances, without an outspoken identity. A lot of the time, they were backpacking or strolling through different landscapes. Sometimes they take a rest. I love the brush marks in this picture. I did not use this drawing or this idea in the book, but I really love the loose marks that make up the trees, the free movement of the paintbrush which makes the grass. I like it when you see the hand of the maker. The more drawings I made, the more the characters came alive. I did not have a conscious plan. One might believe in sort of automatic drawing, storytelling. When I see this sketch, I wish I had the ability to use my sketches as a final product. I believe that the spontaneous marks reflect the way a child draws. The marks stand closer to the world of the child. I try to keep this in my illustrations, but you can't compete with a real intuitive sketch. Remaking a sketch often adds up in spontaneous visuality. So time went by, and some days I didn't draw, and then again. As the drawings add up, I was thinking about what they meant. I was looking at the characters, and bit by bit, the story unfolded itself. It was a playful Rorschach experiment. The images are here, and now comes the meaning. Often I had a feeling that the sketches depicted a spiritual journey. In some images, I drew the fox, and the fox, which is often associated with wisdom, being conscious. I drew him with a staff, like a shepherd, a wise man bringing guidance, and he guides goldfish through a landscape of experiences. So, if fox was wise shepherd, then who was goldfish? Goldfish is limited by its bow, and it cannot take part of the world as other animals do. There is a barrier in experience the world. Touch, feel, communicate. You can tell him as much as you want, but he can't answer. Giving meaning to goldfish began the story. I recognized this pattern in an experience which I had in my early life. I grew up with our family dog Mira. As much she was a part of our family, as much she was in our hearts. I have lovely memories of her. Mira was also a hunting dog who accompanied my dad while hunting. My dad is a forester, by the way. As the years go by, Mira grew old. She did not have that youthful energy anymore. Her eyes turned bluish, and they said she was going blind. But far more worse, she developed a cancer. The disease came with a growth on her belly, which made her less mobile. By then, she also started to isolate herself from the family, something lots of animals do to protect the herd or family from disease. She had surgery, but the growth came back more aggressively. The veterinarian suggested to euthanize her. Amira was in pain. She could not enjoy life anymore. I tried to grab her, tried to cuddle her, but she did not respond. The disease was a barrier between us. On a sunny morning in April, my dad took her into the fields where they always went to hunt. Weak and she wagged her tail and she was jumping through the grass and bushes. She even tried to run after some rabbits and some pheasants. She had all the joy in the world. At the end of the day, my father took his gun from his shoulder, and with a shot, he froze that moment of joy. Mira did not know what happened. She left in that happy moment. At that spot, my dad buried her, in the eternal hunting grounds. It's a harsh story, but it also has a lot of beauty to me. My father, a forester close to nature, reasoned that this is far more ethical than to die at a table at a veterinarian. And dog owners can really relate here. A visit to the vet is very stressful for a dog. This experience was something that always moved me. My intuitive, maybe subconscious drawings invoked that memory of that story. I felt I wanted to merge the story with the drawings and make a picture book about it. The theme of death did not scare me off. I find it an essential aspect of life, not to be ignored. I come from a family where we not spoke as much about our feelings than I rather would. That will always be a mystery, but to speak about it gives it a place, and that is very important. Religion used to be a harbor for answers when it comes to death, and for a lot of people it still is, which is a very good thing. But for a growing majority, it isn't anymore. They can no longer connect with these stories, and by the loss of religious truth comes an existential dread. From out of these wounds, I wanted to make a story that brings compassion, but at the same time is universal, so everyone could enjoy it. The drawings depicting a journey brought me to the narrative of a bucket list. A goldfish that lived in a bowl with a modest room as only sight will travel the world with his gentle guide Fox. They experience the most beautiful views. As long as possible, Fox lets goldfish experience the joy of life, enjoying beauty, relaxing with the most extraordinary views, or cruising down the desert. Note the intervisual reference to the road movie Easy Rider, Life as Journey. Because of the absence of text, the images do the storytelling. Carefully, I place them in an order so that drama and humor are always well balanced. Some drawings did not make the book. I kind of regret that I did not use this Saturday Night Fever illustration, but it might be overkill to quote more than one film. At the beginning of the work process, the book had far more text. Bit by bit, I scrapped most of it until the illustrations carried the narrative. I like to use the metaphor of a mold. I see my images as carefully designed molds. The outside gives the suggestion of my story, but the core, the heart, is to be given by the reader. It works by his interpretation. The space for the reader is key. By giving a place for interpretation, the reader gets more involved within the story. He becomes a participant instead of a viewer. In my work, I use landscape as much as possible to strengthen the visual story. In the decor, as I call it, I like to emphasize the psyche of the character. This is a picture from one of my last books named Rabbit and Hedgehog, written by Paul Verhapt. In this opening scene, we see the main character. Rabbit has a somewhat philosophic character. At the same time, all that thinking gives him doubts. He's often worrying. A very existential character. And this reflects in his house. It's as full as his head, without any order. He doesn't find the energy anymore to open his mail or do the dishes. There are cobwebs on the piano, which gives us a hint that joy is forgotten. A half-eaten carrot could be suggesting nausea, a symptom of stress. Who looks close can see the title of the book that Rabbit is reading, a book by Jean-Paul Sartre. I once read somewhere that clocks or watches in catalogs often show the same time, mostly 10 past 10, because the arms of the clock mimic a happy face, like a smiley, and then the consumer is more likely to buy the watch. True or not, I like such stories. In this room, of course, the clocks are the opposite of that. Yes, everything in this room is thinking out of tune. And rabbit posture, like the tinker of Rodin, is more like a warrior. This way of working was also present in Fox and Goldfish, but often more subtle. The cover, for instance, is a clear reference to Caspar David Friedrich, an artist which I admire, as much as other Romanticist landscape painters. Their paintings are more than merely a visual presentation of a view. The Romanticists used landscape to express greater emotions, like the sublime. Often a human character is placed in an expansive landscape, underlining our fragile existence in a much bigger universe. On the cover, I used the misty mountains in the way Caspar David Friedrich did. Our life is a grand journey. The mist speaks of mystery. Fox is holding the goldfish above his head. Hereby he connects the earthly with the heavenly. In my intuitive sketches, I often portray the sun. Afterwards, in my final drawings, I used natural phenomena in a symbolic way. The sun, a circle, is a common symbol for the cyclic movement, the infinite and eternity. At the end of Fox and Goldfish, their adventure, Fox says, "Okay, Goldfish, you can go now." In that moment of letting go, you see that the decor is bathed in a red-orange light, a kind of light that comes with autumn, dusk. Here you see the sun is literally disappearing. The decor tells us it's time to go. In my original sketches, I even used a leaf falling from the trees. I did not use that. I was afraid that would become too literal. For the next illustration, we see Fox mourning. We are standing in a blue garden. To me, this color reflects this feeling the most. There are dozens of examples of artists who used blue as a sad color, maybe most famously Picasso during his blue period. So this short reflection on my work process could be a lot longer, but I tried to break it down to a few key moments, insights. If you have questions, I would love to answer them by Friday. Feel free to contact me and thank you for your attention.